Welcome back to Zero Hour. Tim Lloyd, Jeff Hobbs, Dylan McCarthy here, and it is our Nashville Underground 3 recap reaction show. Of course, brought to you by Smoky Mountain CBD. Check them out at SmokyMountainCBD.com. They hook us up with all kind of goodies for our VIPs, and look forward to working with them again in 2023. We are off an outstanding Nashville Underground card this past Saturday night, December 17th, training camp, Nashville, Tennessee, of course. We're going to run through it here tonight. We're gonna give our recap, give you all the results and our immediate reactions now that the dust has settled. Maybe try to be a little more forward-looking, gentlemen, where we can on some of these bouts. And Jeff, we're rolling into the holiday break here, and not too long after we'll emerge out the other side with a really nice-looking January 6th card. And for today, we're gonna be looking back at this past weekend, putting a bow on 2022.
Yeah, I mean it's fitting. Putting a bow on the show, putting a bow on the end of the year for us. But like you said, no rest for the wicked. We'll get to enjoy some holidays with the family, and then we're making arrangements to start shipping the cage back to the Joe again. So, going to take full advantage of it though this weekend.
Dylan, you're in the pilot seat for the pay-per-view this past weekend. You can catch replay Expectation Sports, by the way, which I would highly recommend. Otherwise, here in a couple weeks, you catch the videos right here on the Zero Hour page, which I would implore you to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then you'll get notified when we post that new material. Dylan, how's it going, my man? Always a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Hey, happy to be here. It was a great time out in Nashville this past weekend. For the fans that weren't lucky enough to get tickets, you really missed out. This was an atmosphere unlike any other. The Underground did not disappoint. Shout outs to you and Jeff. Jeff conducted some of these interviews solo on the Aries Fight Series channel with some of the fighters that.
It was just one, but go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, well, ultimately, the one that he did do,
Right.
it was a standout. Obviously, that was quite a performance there.
No doubt.
Hey, I'm trying to plug the channel, Tim. What are you doing? But yeah, that's where you can get great insights. And you were a part of the Travell Boone interview. And it was cool to get an insight on some of those fighters before we saw them take the cage. And those Nashville MMA guys got their hands raised. So that was really something to see this weekend.
No doubt. Let's jump into it, guys. Of course, we'll run through these early ones quickly, but we'll give them their due because often many of these deserve it. But before we do that, actually, let's get a quick look ahead. Let's play the spot. Jeff's got it queued up, I think, for January 6th. That'll be coming up. That'll be our first show of the new year, Aries 14. Check that out when we come back on the other side. We'll run through this card.
Knoxville, Tennessee. Aries Fight Series returns to the world-famous Cotton Eye Joe on January 6th. We start 2023 off with a bang with 12 professional and amateur bouts. See some of the most exciting up-and-coming fighters on the regional scene as they face off inside the Aries cage. Get your tickets now at fightertix.com.
Excited for that. Make sure your tickets at fightertix.com or tune in Expectation Sports. Let's jump into it. Of course, a couple of tag team bouts as we are oftentimes like to do to kick off the prelims. And we had a couple of guys one guy in each of these bouts with some experience, and it really showed. We'll get into it here. 385-pound max on both these. First off, we had the debuting team of Jackson Whitlow and Cale Ditton out of Phoenix MMA and Fitness, Hermitage, Tennessee, representing Corey Robeson. Corey Robeson was looking good out there, man. Shout out to Corey and his outfit, man. He was looking sharp. Now Jackson Whitlow, we'd seen before. He tagged up with Josh Maynor and won the Hyder Cup tournament, so he had good experience coming into this. Dare I say, he was like the man of the hour in that, getting a lot of the subs. This is his first time teaming with Cale Ditton, though, and he was taking on the Triangle BJJ team, Pedigo Submission Fighting, out of Franklin. Ethan Brandt, Owen Sanford, and representing Clay Mayfield. And it was 2-0 was our score after the full 10 minutes. And this one got us kicked off. Dylan, it was the use of tags. I felt like by Whitlow and Ditton was the difference here. They really took advantage of the rule set and took out a tough team and two new contending teams. I feel like we're building these divisions up, and Jeff, one of these days we're going to have to do this, some kind of tournament, a one-night tournament, and put some straps on these fools. But Dylan, your take on this opening bout.
Yeah, the Denton and Whitlow team got their sub. The first sub came pretty quickly in that bout, and probably within the first 2.5 minutes, and it sort of felt like they had a pretty superior game plan. Denton, the big man, got in there, and even at times when he looked like the fatigue was setting in, he was kind of able to eat up the valuable minutes of the bout. And then when it really came down to it, Whitlow grabbed the subs for his team. In the end, they got their hand raised. And what's become apparent in these tag team contests is strategy and strategic utilization of the tags is paramount. The teams, it isn't just the best grapplers. That helps being the best grappler, but you got to have the best strategy. You got to have that strategy. And they just seem to have a little bit of an edge in their execution. It was a hard-fought contest. Fans were filing in. The energy was building in the venue for the card to come, and I thought both of these teams represented themselves well. But in the end, it was Denton and Whitlow getting their hands raised.
In the other bout, this one was also fun. It was Zach Odom and Spencer Lawrence representing Wildside out of Clarksville, Tennessee. Had a nice little theme going with their outfits. I always like to see that. It was good to see Zach Odom back, man. It's a blast from the past. Taking on technically the debuting team, because this is the first time they teamed together. Corey Johnson and Zach Hill representing Nashville MMA. Now, Corey Johnson, a guy we talked about with a lot of tag team experience, teaming up with Josh Maynor to some success and to some failure. But even in their losses, they were taking on like really good teams, and they built their strategy to where Corey Johnson was able to convey that to Zach Hill, and these guys were like a well-oiled machine. Was without a doubt the most impressive performance, I thought, from the tag teams. They got 3 subs to 0 and hit that last sub with like 4 seconds left. I mean, it was almost the buzzer. It was a clean sweep. Corey Johnson getting all 3 subs. He got an arm bar, he got a heel hook, and he got I want to say maybe he got a choke, but rear naked choke, yeah. But really nice performance from these guys, and talk about using your tags. These guys use their tags to perfection. Talked to Zach Odom a little bit after. He's like, man, they just knew how to use their tags, and that was everything in this. But the Wildside guys had a really good time all the same. And your take on this one, man? This was a lot of fun. This team, Hill and Odom, man. I'm sorry, not Hill and Odom, but Hill and Johnson. That they looked really good, and I feel like if we were to do some sort of title picture, those guys would be right in the forefront.
Yeah, I think they were the Davey Boy and Dynamite Kid of
yeah.
You could tell that
Corey was Davey Boy.
Yes, Corey was Davey Boy. He was the experienced one. They both knew their roles in this one, and you could tell that Corey Johnson's experience doing these a few times for us. You could tell he taught Zach Hill a lot in the gym. So was going to go and what his role was going to be. It seemed like Zach Hill was taking a lot of the action time-wise, but they were just perfect tags at the perfect time. He would get the bulk of the minutes and then let Corey come in and play cleanup batter, if you will. And like I said, perfectly timed. Talked to Zach Odom myself again, and I even saw a Facebook post after the match, and he was just, what a blast we had. Our opponents just knew how to play the game better than we did, but how much fun was this? And I talked to them in person afterwards, and they were just like, just like everybody we talked to, now we know. Okay, now we know. Now we see what's up. Now let me come back, and knowing what I know now, let me come back and do this again. So I'm sure we will see them back. But like you said, I think that that combination that works so well with Hill and Johnson could be dangerous if they keep that same blueprint every time they do it. Your job is this. My job is this. You catch them, reel them in. I'll snap and pull them out. So it was fun, and like I said, to get a 3-0 sweep is pretty sweet too. For the crowd, and Corey Johnson receiving his purple belt after.
Sure did.
People kind of think this is just gimmicky and things like that, but hey, Coaches were watching, and he was probably right there. And you see it happen a lot in MMA fights. But, to have someone presented their purple belt after our tag team battle was pretty damn cool.
Yeah, congratulations, Corey Johnson. Well earned. Moving on to our next bout, it was our only tie bout on the night. It was a featherweight affair. Cody Ortiz out of Striker Fight Center down in Kennesaw, taking on Phil Hedgewood 1 and 2 out of Nashville MMA. This one went all the rounds, and it was unanimous decision 29-27. All three judges had it that way in favor of Phil Hedgewood. Dylan, your take here. There was one knockdown. So that made it very difficult for Cody to have a chance to get better than a draw in this one. But I tell you, the third round, he really did come on hard. Like he was going for, he knew that, and he was giving it his all. And that would be maybe the round I think he had, all the judges gave him a round, or he wouldn't have had a 27. That would be the round that I gave him. Your take on this one? A really nice win for Phil Hedgewood. He showed a lot more aggressiveness earlier in the fight than what we've seen in the past, and I think that made all the difference in this one.
Yeah, Cody Ortiz coming into this was unbeaten in Muay Thai competition, and you can really see that in the Muay Thai realm, his ranginess, letting people walk onto the end of the strikes for him. That's the name of his game. But unfortunately, he's just kind of a hard luck guy, it seems like, Even the knockdown that Phil Hedgewood scored, it wasn't a thunderous knockdown. He definitely hit him with a shot. And I don't know if Ortiz had some issue with the leg and he was compromised, but he didn't respond well to it. He ended up losing his balance after getting hit, went down. That's a 10-8 under the scoring rules of Muay Thai. So that round, you lost 10-8. I think the first round edged Hedgewood. Ortiz turned it on, and he definitely had his moments. And we've seen him in the MMA realm. The last time I believe it was he fought in Chattanooga, and he was doing well against a guy he had size on, and something happened, and he had an injury, and he ended up not reaching the end of that bout. So Cody Ortiz got a lot of skills, just kind of hard luck continues. Maybe 2023 will be kinder to him. But the night belonged to Hedgewood. Hedgewood had a great showing for his skills, and it just sort of set the tone. Those Nashville guys, they had something going this night, and Phil Hedgewood got his arm raised, and the fans were extremely happy, and he had a great showing for himself. So props to him.
Rounding out the prelims, we started MMA. We were MMA from here on out. This bantamweight bout, a rematch from the fair show that we did. Bryce Warner, 2-2 out of Wild Side. Clarksville takes on Hunter Anderson, 2-1 out of Warrior MMA Gallatin. And the first time around, it was Hunter Anderson getting his hand raised on an illegal kick to a downed opponent, I want to say is what it was. And so we ran it back, and this time it was Bryce Warner getting the win. Unanimous decision, 30-27 across the board. All three judges 3-0. And this one, I thought Warner pretty convincingly won all three rounds. Had some real big slams, and was giving up like 8 pounds in this. I think he came in at like 127. So one of our flyweight contenders typically, but wanted to run this back with Hunter, and Hunter, good size, 135, showed a chin on him too, man. Took some really big shots and kind of kept on coming. So nothing but fun fights with these two, and interested to get your take here. Bryce Warner now moves to 3-2. We've got this odd little triangle at the top of the flyweight division to try to figure out. A lot of people call him for Vincent Van Alstyne, but it was Bryce Warner has a win over Jamie Lloyd, and Jamie Lloyd coming in hot with technically a better record at this point, even though he's got a loss. If Van Alstyne's already beat Jamie, or already not beat Jamie, but beat Bryce. Bryce has a win over Jamie. So how do you sort through all this mess?
First off, props to Dylan McCarthy for the Scott Fargus quip on the pay-per-view. It was perfect. And Hunter Anderson's nose started bleeding. It was a nice little reference to A Christmas Story that Hunter looked like.
Didn't he? I swear to God he did.
Yes, absolutely. But you're right, Tim. And again, Bryce Warner, love this kid to death. Talked to him today actually, and he was very much listen, guys, no disrespect to anybody else, but you all know that I'm the fight to make with Van Alstyne. He said, again, no disrespect to Jamie Lloyd. I know he's got a better record than me right now. He said, but you guys know, he said, you can't deny that I'm the fight with Van Alstyne. He said, I know I got beat by him, but you saw what happened before I slipped. And it's hard to disagree with that. But then on the flip side again, well, the argument is, Jamie Lloyd's sitting here with the 3-1 record, and kind of the same thing. His loss to Bryce Warner was a last minute replacement that he wasn't, prepared for, didn't, train for that opponent. It was a last minute replacement. So he's kind of got an argument there too that, maybe what you saw the first time he fought Bryce was not an accurate depiction of what he can do should he have a training camp. So everybody's got an argument. So, I mean, other than maybe just putting them all three in the cage at the same time and seeing who comes out the winner, maybe we can work something like that out. I don't know. But, that's something to argue another day. This night was Hunter Anderson and Bryce Warner. And like you said, now Bryce did have some adversity. The guillotine I thought was pretty deep in that first round. He went for a bigger slam, and I think he may have ended up in guard or half guard, but in that guillotine, and it looked tight for a while. But he was able to stay composed for such a young kid. He has brain fart moments, and there's sometimes where he's just really calm and composed. But he said coming into this fight, he told me I was going to see a different Bryce Warner. He wasn't going to rush anything. He was going to be patient and not let those brain farts happen. He was going to just take what comes to him, and he did. He started really connecting with some really good, solid 1-2, combinations that were rocking Hunter Anderson's head. Hunter kept going to the well on this spinning shit. And, it's great when you connect, but you got to connect fist on face, because the forearm isn't, or just that whiff and miss. Well, now you've turned your back to your opponent, and he just quickly closed the distance and put yourself into some bad positions. And he just kept going to that. But, at that point, it was kind of some desperation. You probably feel from his part. He, was a little worse for the wear after that fight. Took him a while to get up off the ground after the third round. Heard he was, kind of just still that same way in the back. So it took a lot out of him, which tells you the beating that that Bryce Warner inflicted on him. So I don't know, man. Up to this point, I can say every fight so far is delivered, and this again delivered as well. I think this was entertaining for the fans. It had everything you needed: action, blood, and was a really good MMA fight to start us off.
No doubt about it. That was one that would typically be higher up on a card. I think with the you get a fight like that on the prelims, and you're like, man, this is a precursor to a pretty good night of action. We move on to the undercard. And we had a heavyweight bout. It was the debut in Cameron Johnson of Guardian MMA Lebanon, taking on 1-0 Finn Martin, Nashville MMA. Very, very big showing from Finn Martin. Just looked great out there. Cameron Johnson, fended him off as best he could on the feet for about the first 2 minutes. But once Finn was able to get the takedown, he moved to a dominant position, ground and pound, rains down, and he gets a TKO in the first round. 2 minutes, 34 seconds in. Moves to 2-0. And this is a guy that, is going to be a 205er. The 205 division hasn't really been very quick to step to him. But, he looks the part of a heavyweight all the same. Your take on this one, Dylan, a really nice showing from Finn Martin.
Yeah, Finn Martin, somebody to put a circle around his name, going into 2023. Heavyweight, obviously a weight class, especially amateur, where guys can kind of move up very quickly because there's not a whole lot of really impressive looking amateur heavyweights that we've seen in the past year. Now, he's got a great physique. I'll be honest with you. The guy looks the part. Like physically, they came out, and Cameron Johnson, you could tell, was a tough guy, but Finn looks like, the guy's fucking jacked. He's in great shape. Cam Johnson, I think, probably felt some of the pressure. Saw his opponent, looked to be in great shape, looked to be a super tough specimen to be in the cage with. Cam came out aggressive, actually, in the first 90 seconds of the fight, throwing hands. He's actually finding a home for a left and a right, and he's a big guy in his own right, so he's doing some damage. But in the end, Finn Martin just superior movement. He starts chopping the legs. All of a sudden, Johnson stops moving, and when you're not moving, it's real easy for Finn to find a home for the hands, which led to him taking to the fight to the ground, a stationary opponent. Not much footwork from Johnson. Finn Martin is somebody who, young, skilled, big as hell, powerful as hell. I'm excited for future cards in 2023 to feature more amateur heavyweight action. Finn Martin's definitely got to be one of the competitors that you're looking for because, he just looked dominant, and heavyweights with good grappling skill set at that weight class, everybody's got the image in their mind, knockout artist. But if you've got good wrestling, good top pressure, that's going to set you apart from that class of bruiser slugfest heavyweight. So Finn Martin's definitely somebody that got my attention. It was pretty cool to see him, and I look forward to seeing him in the new year.
Yeah, I think that, whether it be at 205 or even, we've got a cruiserweight champion out there already, as well as a 205 champion. I think.
Yeah, I know that was your first time, Dylan, meeting him. I mean, to tell you the truth, though, this kid, we have to talk him into heavyweight. He is a 205er. Like, he had to put on weight and purposely, 205 is his weight class. So now think everything you just said.
Yeah.
In the 205 division, it's even scarier to think of it.
That was he's got, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but he's got like a pro looking physique, he doesn't look like a guy who's toying with the idea of doing this. He's in great shape, and he's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem for whoever wants to step in there with him. Probably going to be hard to find somebody to be a willing combatant, but hopefully we get to see him again in 2023.
From here, this next bout started giving us problems when it comes to figuring out what we're going to do for fight of the night, man. From here, it was just man, we've got a lot of contenders for this lightweight bout. 155 pounds, Jeremiah Bennett out of American Top Team Lima, out of Atlanta, Georgia, taking on Cody the Burden Stewart, 2-2 out of Triangle BJJ. It's Pedigo Submission Fighting, Franklin, Tennessee. First time we'd seen Cody Stewart in about a year. And, man, he looked really good, coming off a win over Ben Sharp, a guy that was able to, match the height of Jeremiah Bennett, who's without a doubt one of the tallest lightweights you're going to run across, especially in the amateur ranks. It was a great fight, Jeff. In my opinion, it was 1-1 going to the third round. It was anybody's fight. Cody Stewart just edged it out. It was 29-28, unanimous decision across the board, 2-1. I would argue it either way. I was okay with it. These guys really threw down.
Yeah, like I said, we started getting to that point a little later after this, just going, how in the world do we pick a fight of the night? So we just went towards the old performances and individualized some performances of the night, because we would have argued probably all night about who deserved it more. And this was like one of those first front runners. Yeah, Jeremiah Bennett looked great in the first round, and it looked like, okay, he was going to be too much for Cody Stewart. The size, the length, the height. And it felt like it was taking Cody, he just wasn't getting in his groove, and he wasn't finding his rhythm, and that length and size of Bennett was maybe causing him to second guess things too long, and then things were happening to him while he was trying to figure shit out. But man, did he turn it on in the second round. And then, like I said, going into that third, it was anybody's ball game. Someone was going to steal the fight in the third round. This has kind of been, you think back to Underground 1, what happened at Underground 1 with Cody, and that was the Justin Jamar fight, wasn't it? Yeah, Justin Jamar and Underground 1. And you think of Underground 2 again. Underground is where Cody Stewart has been involved in some exciting and fun. This is kind of his spot. I think he feels that way. Like, this is where I shine, or I'm in some damn good fights. And he's a sneaky guy who's kind of snuck up in the ranks here with us, and has become just a really solid. He hasn't been with Triangle and BJJ long. He was telling me he just kind of caught on with these guys. He was looking for a new home, and so surely those guys over in Franklin are proud of what he accomplished the first time carrying that flag. 155, man, though, there's a lot of good stuff there. So if Cody is trying to put some traveling miles on the card, and maybe venture out to Knoxville and Chattanooga or Chattanooga, could really be some interesting fights in this weight class for him.
Without a doubt, I think Cody's, he's a guy that's creeping up in the division. And, our goal, folks, here, hopefully by the new year, the three of us are going to get together and hammer out a ranking so we can get a little bit of order to all this chaos right now, because they're starting to get clustered up here, guys. It's not easy to just be like, well, this guy's definitely next. There's several people in the running for these things, so we'll try to give a little bit of order to it to you guys. We'll do like a ranking show, maybe, here at the first of the year. Up next, it was our flyweight bout, and we kind of talked a little bit about this one earlier. It was Austin Slowburn Swink out of Phoenix MMA and Fitness, and Hermitage taking on Jamie Lloyd, 2-1 out of Cheatham County, Tennessee. And this was another fight of the night contender, man. It was a split decision win for Jamie Lloyd. And 29-28 across the board, 2 of them for Lloyd, 1 of them for Swink. I was okay with any way that they went on this fight. Swink had a lot of dominant positions that Lloyd was just able to squirm out of, man. Like he was really hard to hold down. And then in the striking exchanges, I thought that Jamie had some really nice shots landed, and as did Swink, man. It was just a really good fight. And we're talking about Jamie Lloyd already kind of in this flyweight title picture. Austin Swink's a tough guy too, and I think there's still some really fun fights for him, and he could get himself right into that picture with a couple of the right wins. Your take on this one, Dylan?
Yeah, so this was a really interesting bout. In the first round, there was an inadvertent low blow that Lloyd suffered. And he took darn near close to full 5 minutes, which he's well within his right to do. But the reason I bring that up is it just kind of created this dynamic in the fight where it was a real frenetic pace, and you just couldn't get a sense of who was taking the fight over. It's sort of a microcosm for what you see in the top levels of MMA right now, where the judges are kind of under a microscope with the whole damage versus control discussion. Tim, you mentioned that Swank enjoyed some good control time in this bout, and then when it was on the feet, it seemed like the more meaningful and damaging strikes were coming from Lloyd. The first 2 rounds after they were over, especially with that first round with the big delay, it kind of felt like it was a head scratcher because you didn't know how the judges were going to score it. I myself at the commentary table with Monty Burks, who was great to hang out with, by the way, we kind of talked amongst ourselves just about this is a tough one because what are they prioritizing? Is it going to be the dominant control and position for most of the round that Swink enjoyed? Or is it going to be the damage on the hands that Lloyd inflicted that's going to be sticking with the judges? Obviously, Lloyd had a good group of fans there. They were making a lot of noise, showing him a lot of support, raising hell, and in the end, they went home happy. Lloyd got his hand raised. The same thing you said, Tim. You wouldn't have been upset to see either fighter awarded the decision. In the end, Jamie Lloyd did enough, and definitely his fans were happy, and the fans in general were happy because this was an extremely competitive contest. Hopefully Austin Swink is somebody that we get a chance to check out again soon because he got a great accounting of himself. And Jamie Lloyd, that's, like you said, there's a lot of candidates gunning for Vincent, and he's in the ranks. So something to be considered there as we move into the new year.
Jeff, any one thing you want to add to this one here? I think there's some good fights out there for both these guys.
Well, I think a piece that needs to be added to this is Umana.
Maverick Cooper too.
Yes, when you think of Umana going the distance with Van Alstyne, I think that says a lot and is kind of a litmus test maybe for Bryce Warner or an Austin Swink coming off a loss and Umana coming off a loss. But if you look at, the deep waters that Umana was able to go with Van Alstyne, maybe him and Warner together kind of sets that, okay, is this something Bryce Warner's, maybe that's what puts him over. How do I fare against the guy that went the distance with Van Alstyne? So
yeah, that'd be a great fight.
Yeah, so many different combinations there that I think are just intriguing as hell. Or you can just kind of look at, okay, Swink off a loss, Umana off a loss, maybe that's a fight to make. But I feel like the Umana and Warner fight would be kind of entertaining, exciting if Warner's not getting a title shot. So maybe it is Umana and Warner, Lloyd and Van Alstyne, and you kind of see how those two pairs shape out. and maybe make a final bout based on the results of that. Who knows? It's a good
We're
problem.
fortunate to have this much depth in the flyweight division because,
And like you said, and then you throw Maverick Cooper in the mix too. So you got 5 guys right there that could make for some really interesting fights.
January 6th has got some 155ers on the card too here. So, I mean, in another couple of weeks, we'll have another couple of 155ers, with new wins and new losses to consider.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I'd like to see maybe, Tim, if we can get a card and put as many of these different matchups on one card so we don't have to stretch it out.
Kind of shakes out. See how everybody kind of comes together. All right. Moving on, it is our amateur main event. And, man, talk about a I'm not going to say that I'm shocked in who won this, but in how quickly it happened, I will say I was shocked. Middleweight bout, 185 pounds. It was Miles Dillahunty out of American Top Team Lehman, Atlanta, Georgia, taking on Andrew Stewart out of Nashville MMA. And, man, the hype was on this one. I mean, we blew this one up. This is everybody saying this is going to be this fight of the night. These guys, I mean, both reinforced that ideal at weigh-ins, I feel like, at the face-offs. And 49 seconds later, it was a big knockout win for Andrew Stewart. Performance of the night winner, moves to 2-0 and to the top of the pecking order of the middleweight division. And over a guy like Dillahunty, who that's really impressive. It was it was a nice short right hook that stumbled Dillahunty, but then a couple more well placed ones after did finish the job. Jeff, I'll go to you on this one.
Yeah, we did. It was fight of the night. And even though we didn't say it, I mean, I see it. It was like in your mind, it was either going to be just a gritty, grueling, long, brutal matchup, but it just doesn't surprise you that the opposite end of the spectrum was somebody was getting a one-hitter quitter and going to make it. I expected it to go the other way, but I'm not surprised that it went this way. Talked to Andrew Stewart tonight. Actually, he was back in the gym, already tonight. You got to love talking to a kid like this, young guy, because he was like, man, I didn't go to sleep until 2 p.m. the next day, on Sunday. He's like, I just could not sleep. He said, I was so still just excited and happy, and I couldn't stop thinking about it and replaying the whole fight in my head. And he's like, just laying in bed smiling. And he said, I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't want it to end. I didn't want, that's how cool it was to him. He had a great fan base there. He did really well with his ticket sales, and it showed. He had a good support system right behind his corner. But yeah, like you said, a little shorthand. It was he did get clipped, in the beginning, but he said not to take anything from Miles. He said, but some of that was an overextension on my part, and he just caught me kind of like he said, kind of across the nose. But he said, I know I wasn't out. I know I wasn't down. He said it was just that immediate, like, oh shit, that looked bad. I'm going to have to hurry up and get that out of, head if I need to. But he kind of parried away at a shot. But he said after I kind of parried away, he said I didn't have to cock it. It's like I just saw the opening and my hand was already there. So he said I just turned it over, and I was like, it's exactly what it was. You could see it was so short. It was just a turnover of the hand. But it clipped him, beautifully. Dillahunty kind of just starts to fall over, and Andrew helps him continue on down. So a lot of stuff went into this fight. I get to know Andrew leading up to this, and knowing the history of matches, Tim, that you had tried to make previous shows for him, and his gym just was not ready to pull the trigger. They said there's just too much unknown. Wasn't sure. Wasn't in the gym as often as they wanted to see. Of course, come to find out later, it's because he was actually traveling all the way from Bowling Green to Nashville every day to train. And he said I was spending $400 and $500 a week on gas. So he was putting a lot in. But so this was important to him to earn the trust and the respect from his gym, his coaches, to be a part of the team. It was cool seeing on Sunday. I guess they have these little necklaces and stuff that only fight team members, true, fight team members of the gym get, and he received his after the fight from the team to truly and officially make him, part of that fight team. And I know that meant the world to him. That being said, like I said, he was back in the gym today, and all he wants to talk about is what's next. And he has got April 29th circled on his calendar. and wants to know how quick we're going to talk to his coaches and about securing a fight in October in Chattanooga um, against a gentleman that is kind of cut from the same cloth, big, uh, big for the weight class, tough, gritty fighter, and Josh Booker. So Tim, you got your hands full trying to make some magic happen here, April 29th. But if that does come together, we're going to have the same discussions and feeling about that fight that we did about this.
Oh yeah. That's certainly would be fireworks without a doubt. Hopefully we can work that one out for Chattanooga. Is we'll be there April the 29th, as Jeff mentioned. Sounds like a good one to me. Hopefully the powers on both sides will align, make that a reality. Let's move on to the professional portion of the card, gentlemen. Opening up the pro side of the card at a catchweight of 140 pounds. Prince Ahmed Camus versus Travell Boone, Travell Boone, both making their professional debuts. Camus representing Jim O, Gastonia, North Carolina. Of course, Travell Boone representing National MMA 38 Chambers. And man, another great fight, man. Like this is we had some blood in this one. And it began a little bit of a bloody run, as it were, in the cage. It was a split decision win for Travell Boone. Some wonky scores here. 29-28 for Boone, 29-28 Camus, 30-27 for Boone. That's a bit of a head scratcher. I was okay with either guy winning. That card I thought was a little egregious, but all the same, a really fun fight. It was, the age-old question, just like we talked about earlier with the Bennett and the Stewart fight, or the Lloyd and the Lloyd and Swink fight. It's like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for the damage of the strikes? Are you looking for the control, the takedowns? And obviously the judges were looking for the striking here, which Travell landed some really nice elbows and head kicks and flying knees and leg. I mean, just an absolute beautiful display of striking. And honestly, accounted pretty well for himself on the ground. He was very hard to control. Camus would get several takedowns, but he could never really just open up because it was all he could just to corral in there. So props to Travell's grappling to just be able to survive some really bad spots. To threaten himself maybe kind of for a moment. I don't know how deep his attempt was, but certainly was able to survive enough to keep getting up and go where his bread is buttered, as it were. Jeff, your take on this one?
Yeah, I'm like you. 30-27 was a stretch. I was fine 29-28 either way. I was kind of, my anticipation and nerves were a wreck waiting for the scorecards because I knew it was going to be so close, and either team was going to be, upset at the decision, knowing that it was so close. But I could tell each team was fully confident that their fighter had done enough to win the fight. So reading that last 30-27 was, it didn't feel right to me to read it because immediately both guys know when they heard that, okay, this is weird. Because either way, if it had been a 30-27 on either side, if it had been 30-27 Camus, Travell's side would have been like, what the hell? Because there's no way it was 30-27. But, talking about those earlier fights on what was at least the judges were consistent in what they felt, because in the earlier fights they felt the striking outweighed the control, and there were several times you heard the crowd that wanting it stood up. Camus did get a lot of takedowns. He, and that's going to happen with a striker like Travell really going for those knockout punches and putting himself in some bad positions, but didn't really do a lot with his takedowns. A lot of just holding position, holding down. Wasn't really going for anything a lot. The crowd, the corners, really thought that the referee should have stood it up a few times. So obviously that's what the judges felt as well, was, I'm not going to give this guy credit. It seems to be even a theme sometimes in Nashville. We see, if you think back years ago, again, we always bring up the Alexander and Robbins fight. Total control of that fight on the ground, takedowns at will. But the Nashville judges want to see action, it seems, over and over again. And Travell, I have to say again, not knowing which way this was going, and that third round, he was pulling everything but the kitchen sink out, flying knees,
Yeah.
over, Superman punches. He went for it, he went for it. And how good is this kid on the microphone? When it's time to talk. It's a cross between a really good talker and a preacher. It's somewhere in between, and motivational speaker / preacher when he's getting his time on the mic. So and his corner was really excited for him. You could tell a lot of them, in that camp, Overstreet especially. It looks like invested a lot in this camp with him because they were just as emotional as he was with the victory. I'll be interested to talk to him on Sunday. I went back to the gym to kind of do some more cleaning up, and he was there on Sunday, and it doesn't sound like he's going to want to take too much time away, Tim. He was asking how often do I have to wait in between fights? If I book one on this date, how long? I was like, well, give people a month. Don't book anything within 30 days of each other. But
No.
he's trying to look at his calendar about when he might be able to get back in there and do it. And
There's so many fun fights for a guy like that. I mean, with a style like that, there's nobody that you're going to be like, that's not going to be a good fight. There's so many good
And
fights.
I think it's going to be new to him, as hard as it is for him to find professional Muay Thai fights. It's probably going to get overwhelming here in a second. That it's not as hard to find professional MMA fights.
No.
With that weight class, so he might get a little overwhelmed with offers.
Yeah. A guy like that is, for style, for two reasons. Style wise, he's exciting. People, he's going to put on a show. It's going to be fun. But also style wise, everybody's going to think that, hey, we take him down. He's a Thai fighter. We got that. We take care of that. So
they'll start comparing themselves to Camus and going, yeah, but my wrestling's better than Camus, so he won't get up from me. And so you'll have them jumping at the bit just to show I got the blueprint to do this. And
I mean, Camus another guy that I'd like to have back. They were great to work with, and there's plenty of good fights for him as well out there. You look at guys like Chance Gilbride and guys like that line up real nice with him at Camus. So, all right, move on to the feature bout of the evening. It was this one was bloody, man. It was Diedrich break him down Sanders, National MMA, proving to 6-3. And he got the win over Magic Mike Roberts, who drops to 9-8 out of Derby City MMA. Diedrich representing National MMA, 38 chambers. Unanimous decision win, 30-27 across the board. All three judges had all 3 rounds for Sanders. And man, I tell you what, Sanders just the striking looked so good. This was pretty much a kickboxing bout for all intents and purposes for 3 rounds. These guys just stood and they really went at it, and it was the Muay Thai of Diedrich Sanders was just on display here. The elbows in close, really cut up. Mike Roberts had him really his face just mangled, honestly. But credit to Roberts, he never stopped coming. Like he was always in this fight, and a guy with his power like that, you still have to respect the entire time because he still was searching for that win. I'll go to both of you guys on this one. Dylan, you first. Your take on this one. At the age of 35, not to downplay that things can't happen at 35, but it's got to be pedal to the metal, in my opinion, for Diedrich Sanders. He's on a roll right now. His record has now gotten to a point where, hey, you can start seeing him taking some bigger steps up against, some marquee names potentially.
Yeah, Monty Burks and I mentioned that during the walkouts there, tail of the tape. We said, hey, listen, both these guys, they've got winning records. This fight's going to be big. At age 35, the time is now. And, in mixed martial arts, sometimes you see guys with nicknames and you're like, okay, it's a fun show name, but hey, break them down. That's a pretty fitting name for Mr. Sanders because if that's the game plan in this fight, take a look. I mean, the guy, we saw him obviously at Aries Amped in August taking on Logan Neal, and he scored a stoppage, looking pretty complete, and the striking was very dangerous.
Breaking him down.
100%. And in this fight, Roberts came out and was game, looking to execute some inside trips. He wanted to push Sanders up against the wall. And I mean, Roberts has got a great physique, so he wanted to utilize an inside leg trip, hopefully get on top. Sanders was wise to it, reversed the trip in the first round, and every time that they were in the clinch, he was making them pay with elbows, uppercuts, knees to the body. Not a lot of holes visibly in Dedrick Sanders' game. I mean, the guy looks like a pretty complete mixed martial artist. It did get bloody as the fight wore on into the middle of the second round, and then in the third round, you got the feeling like maybe Sanders is going to get a finish here. Maybe he's going to find a stoppage. But credit to Roberts. Every time Roberts was hit with something that looked like it would have killed somebody, I mean, the guy just had a stoic look on his face. He could really, aside from the blood, you couldn't tell that he was hurt. But Sanders was pumping just vicious knees. He'd get him in a clinch, hold the back of his head, and just, man, cutting his eyes up with those elbows. At one point, I thought Sanders was cut, but he was just wearing Roberts' blood all over his body as the fight wore on. Great show. I mean, it was fun for me to see the difference in the pros and the amateur fights. Obviously, pros, this is professional, right? Just in the name, but the rounds being longer, the physiques, the professional physiques. And then you just see a guy like Roberts, who even though he's on the short end of a fight, there's no quit in him. They gave you a show for all 3 rounds. And I swear, if Roberts could have found a moment to land a damaging blow, he was coming forward in the third. He knew it was desperation time. But 100%, the positive momentum continues to roll on for Dedrick Sanders. Got a pretty good-looking winning record now. And even his losses, I know when we did the Aries Amped recap preview show, back in August, you're looking at who Sanders has lost to, and it's people that are in the upper echelons of the sport. So Dedrick Sanders got to be feeling good after that win. I was caught up in the moment. We had so many people call out Aries Fight Series champions on the undercard, and then I'm looking at the weight class, and I was like, well, Dedrick could challenge Pat, and then I realized they're both Nashville guys, so yeah. I made a fool of myself. But if you know me, you know that's bound to happen sometimes.
You get to know these Middle Tennessee guys. You got the East Tennessee guys down pat. You're getting to know these Middle Tennessee guys.
I was excited, I got carried away, but at the same time, I mean, hey, it would have been cool if Pat was on this card, but I got carried away. The whole point is Dedrick Sanders kicked ass, looked great, and going to be a big year for him here in 2023. I feel like this is time in his career for him to capitalize on this, and can't wait to see what ends up happening there.
Yeah, I'm ready to see what the Spectation Pro 155 rankings look like, because it's got to be filled with all Aries guys at this point, between Charlie Alexander, Pat Crump, and Dedrick Sanders. I mean, the 155 division it feels kind of locked down in the Middle Tennessee area, but not to. I think, guys, there was a typo somewhere somehow, because everything else has listed Dedrick Sanders at 32, so we can't put him out to the pasture yet. And Dedrick did not have to do a neuro.
That's what it's on the tail of the tape. It said 35.
Yeah, I think there was a typo somewhere that guy.
Sometimes that happens in the tail of the tape. Sometimes
you're right about that. You're right about that. Can't always trust the tail of the tape.
He's a young-looking 35 if he is 35, but you're saying he's 32. Maybe he's 23. I don't know.
I've got him down at 32, and I think Topology also has it. He was born in 1990, so he's not quite there yet. He's still got some years in him. But man, he's kind of like the silent assassin right now. It's really cool to see him on a nice 3-fight win streak. He was sitting at 3-3 at one time, and kind of that. Well, he loses to these good guys, which he should lose to them. You just didn't know where he was at. But Tim, I think you said it best the other day was, polarizing figure or coaches sometimes at Nashville MMA, depending on if Dorian Price or not, but you cannot deny the improvement that some of these guys that have transferred in there with him and that he's gotten his hands on, the turnaround on some of their careers. And Dedrick Sanders is one of those guys. There's just a different level to his crispness and his technique and his aggression level from when we had seen him early on, back when he was fighting for other promoters. It's just a different vibe to him. Those short elbows, again, we're coming from an evil place. Like, it was like he was trying to hurt someone, and they just had this viciousness to them. And it's just something about those short ones, It's like Jake Roberts with the short arm suplex. It just seemed like the short ones were the ones that just, so much more damage. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. I wanted to kill someone after the show for saying that was a boring fight. I was like, what the hell planet are you from? Like, it was just so boring. It's like, because you don't like violence, what would have made that fight boring? Just because it went the distance and no one got finished, that's ludicrous. You had one guy that was just on point all night, and you had another guy who was an absolute warrior that was not going to be taken out. That was the craziest thing I'd heard all night. That fight was boring. I was like,
Who was it,
all
man?
all the best fights with
Who's talking that crap, man? Who's saying this?
Exactly. I was like, you've lost your damn mind. Give me here. Take your money back. Get out of here.
I thought all the best fights of the night went the distance.
Oh, absolutely. That's what good matchmaking is. That's what a good fight is. Yes, you want to see those, highlight knockouts and things like that, and those are great for highlight reels, and they make us all jump up and excited. I mean, things like that. But I mean, those decisions, that's telling you that those are two, very equal guys. It was just crazy for me to hear. Dedrick Sanders, right now, he's got to keep, in my opinion, he's got to strike while the iron's hot. And right now, Dedrick Sanders is hot right now. When you look at the wins and the way he's doing them and the way he's getting, he's in that same, to me, he's exactly in that same, he just doesn't have a belt on him right now, but he's in that same mold as Pat Crumpton right now, where they're nasty fighters. They're going to wear on you. And I think both of those guys right now should allow us to look for almost the kind of that same Trevor Peak blueprint, where that next opponent, you let us find you somebody, get somebody that maybe has been there and that you can measure yourself against. And if you pass the test, then that might get you that call. It might get you to the next level. I think both of those guys are at that point that they could really step it up and find out what they're made of, where they're at, and compare themselves to people that have either been there or that are also on that same track to find out who is actually, head and shoulders above the other.
I think I agree. 2023 should be that year for both of these guys, and not saying that even at 32 is quote unquote old, but like, I think it's, you figure his teammates already got the title. You're like, what, you go for a marquee name, you go for a head, you go for a scalp at this point, and see where that leads. Co-main event time. It was Zach Hicks continuing his hot streak here as he moves to 8-4 now. With a second round rear naked choke win over St. Louis's Fred Freeman, who drops to 3-5. It was the striking aspect of this fight was competitive and close, I thought, and we kind of thought about that in the preview as well. But when the takedowns, Hicks was able to secure, get the top position, worked hard throughout the first round to get a finish. He went for some submissions. It's a ground and pound, just couldn't quite get Fred out of there. Fred is a hard guy to corral, just very wiry and he's strong and he's not going to just lay there for you. And so, Zach in the second round able to get the takedown again, and this time he was able to secure the back, and that was all she wrote. The rear naked choke win over Fred Freeman at the 142 mark of the second round. He moves to 8-4, and hopefully we've got some things lining up towards a big fight for him in the spring for that the Aries Featherweight Championship that we've been talking about, him and Robbie Ring. So hopefully we can get that lined up. Dylan, we'll go to you first, and we'll hear from Jeff.
Yeah, so you're going into the co-main at this point. It's been a great night of fights, and this was kind of unfinished business. We had that theme in the prelims with Hunter and Bryce Warner, and this was a fight that was supposed to go down, months ago in Chattanooga. And it actually was a good, perfect circle because Corey Delaney stepped in for Fred Freeman when that fight fell out in Chattanooga, and Corey obviously featured in the next fight. So it just, this card was really well put together. It kind of had some good stories that unfolded kind of within itself. But as far as this fight went with Freeman and Hicks, Hicks showed good fight IQ. You're in there against Freeman. Freeman looks extremely athletic. His health issues were put to the wayside, and he looked to be in as good a shape as he's been. It looked dangerous in the opening moments in the fight on the feet. He kind of has a herky jerky movements, and he was using feints to kind of make this thing get a little bit dicey here. Hicks just stuck with the game plan. I think he ate a shot at one point, ran through it. Hicks is in great shape. It feels like ever since that fight fell out, I believe back in June, he's just stayed in camp. I know he's coming back from a knee injury, and it just feels like each time we see him, he's in better shape. You can tell he takes the sport so seriously. He had a great interview with Spectation Sports where he kind of talked about where his mindset is coming into this fight and how he wants to take the next step, take things to the next level. And as soon as he got the fight to the ground, you can really see that that's an area where he feels comfortable. He was able to get his second submission victory in 3 fights. Obviously, he went to decision in August where he looked dominant in that fight. So he's another one of these Nashville guys who has a ton of momentum. And he's one of the nicest guys in the sport, so it's easy to cheer for him. And then he gets on the microphone at the end of the fight, and he calls out my one-time former broadcast colleague, Robbie Ring, better known for being an undefeated mixed martial artist in his own right. And I was stoked because, Robbie's been kind of hanging around since the last time we saw him, and Zach has built up all this positive momentum. And if those two are on a collision course, it's something that combat sports fans in this area can get extremely excited about. And they're both great guys, so you want to see good guys in their community, good guys in the sport get an opportunity to get recognized, and that would be such an awesome fight. Either way, the night belonged to Zach Hicks, scoring the big submission victory. So props to him. We're Facebook friends, Zach. You're the man. But yeah, moving forward, if it's Zach and Robbie, man, look out, because that's got some big fight feel to it, and I would love to see how that shakes out.
Jeff.
Yeah, and kudos, and somebody else that should be happy about that possibility would be Spectation Sports. I think we, have, over the past year, have done a good job of not just having fights, but having fights with a plan and a
continuity.
Yes, a storyline with continuity to where, at the end of the day, these guys have to get it done. But, we do have a plan in mind that if all things are equal and everyone does what they set out to do, that we get to this point to where we can showcase some of these Spectation Sports guys, and not that they're contractually obligated to spectate, but guys that the Spectation Sports fans and family and subscribers have gotten to know throughout the cards, having their WrestleMania moment where at the end of the year these mega fights happen, and this is a good example of one. And so I hope it happens as well. One thing I was surprised about, again, and maybe go back and second guess earlier in 2022, is getting to be around Fred Freeman in a different setting and a different atmosphere kind of goes back and lets me know that he was, at the time I'm upset from a promoter standpoint. I'm pissed off that a fight falls through, but it lets you know that he was in a bad way probably that last time in Chattanooga, because this was a completely different person than what we experienced in Chattanooga. Again, which makes me kind of second guess and go back and go, okay, he thinking back, I mean, nonverbal, not talking, just wanting to be gone and sleep the whole time, having to wake, he was in a bad way. And this was a much different Fred Freeman, a much looser, nicer, kinder, jovial Fred Freeman. And it showed, all weekend and then in the cage, because he was kind of, difficult to wrangle in. He's a strong guy that I don't think he gets a lot of credit for outside of us. That he's got some strength, and he gave some adversity to Zach. He wasn't going to go easy for sure. And, I was glad to see it go the second round, because, again, that was just more ring time and more work for Zach. And I think this was a good fight to end 2022 off, and Zach's little run of pretty much damn near a whole year in training camp to be able to put this behind him, get his record to where he had set out for it to be at the end of this year, and now take a much deserved and earned break and rest, for a month or so, month and a half. Not to say that, again, he was another one this evening. I go to check and do some cleaning still from this event, and I look, and there's Andrew Stewart, Charlie Alexander, Zach, and all of them in jiu-jitsu class. So I'm thinking they're taking a break, but they're not. But I think mentally a break from a fight camp before he, possibly steps into the biggest camp of his career.
Main event time. It was the reigning king of the underground, C4 Charlie Alexander, taking on Corey Delaney, lightweight bout. And the king of the underground remains the king. And C4 Charlie Alexander, he moves to 9-3 now with a second round TKO over Corey Delaney. Really ate him up with leg kicks throughout the first round and into the second round. But the kind of set the stage, if you will, throughout the first round. It really doing a lot of damage to the point where Corey had to switch stances. And then it was a really well-placed, like, short flying knee to the head that not many people besides myself at the time actually, like, noticed. But, like, because on video, it actually doesn't really do it justice. But, like, I was sitting there and it was just, like, so flush. And I was like, oh, shit. And
I didn't see it, but your reaction, Tim, to it, that it was a
yeah.
real thing.
It really did, yeah. And that crumpled Corey to the ground, and then it was heavy ground and pound from there. Sealed the deal after a pretty lengthy hiatus from competition. So Charlie Alexander looked good out there. After a year off, thought he looked real good. And he actually got a little bit of ring time out there. This one went into the second round, so we got a little over 6 minutes of time as this one ended at officially 1:37, minute 37 of the second round. Jeff, take us home here on this one.
What you'd almost say flawless performance. It was just something. The word it just came to mind when I went into the cage. It was surgical. He had a game plan that he had worked on. He had a body part that he picked out, and that low leg kick right at the bottom of the shin on the side there. It did not take many of them before the effect started. You could tell when he would try to put that foot back down, it was tender, and it was hard to put any weight on it, and it immediately showed. And it was like blood in the water for Charlie that he knew it was working. And when he would switch stances, he just gave the inside, to the other leg. So it was kind of a pick your poison, damned if you do, damned if you don't. He was going to chop, whichever leg was out forward was going to get some damage and chop. So it was really it was impressive to see such calculation and execution of a game plan. Charlie's never a guy to rush a fight. We know that. He's a slow roller when it comes to the minutes and the rounds, but he was very calculated on what he set out to accomplish. And like you said, I don't think people really understand, besides the knee injury, he had a pretty good health scare, internally. I believe it was his liver and things like that. That really wasn't sure if it was weight cut related, kidneys, liver, something like that. Just the damage he had done to his body from, weight cuts and things like that. So, I mean, there was some legitimate scare medically with Charlie when all this happened with the knee injury as well, and having to get that taken care of. So, there was a lot of questions, and, a year off, you balloon up, you put on a lot of weight, and, so he had to take off the weight and do a weight cut that could have potentially been the problem to begin with. And now he's got to do it at all this weight that he had put on. So then it was kind of scary for him too. Like, I got to make sure I do this the right way so I don't re-damage what had happened before. So it was good to see him get that ring rust off and really, in my opinion, get right back exactly where he was before this. We're not one of those promotions that, don't say another promotion's name. It's just not how we roll. He had a CFFC title fight, set, booked, ready to rock and roll. and all the hard work had paid off, and he had to pull from that fight because of these things. So, he could have probably just kind of rolled right back into that situation, if not maybe have to take a fight and get it back. But he chose to, reach out to us and say, if you guys are going to have a show in Nashville, can I come back? Can I do one more? And let me get this ring rust off and let me do it in my home crowd. So I definitely appreciate, I know you do too, Tim, the opportunity that, to work with him maybe one last time before he goes on and tries some other things. And Corey Delaney, man, you can't say enough about the guy. That is, no matter what Corey does, whether it's Logan, whether it's Zach or now Corey or Charlie. And Charlie, Charlie can be an ass. He can be polarizing and people don't like him. But even for Charlie Alexander after a fight to go, that dude is too nice. That dude is a good dude. He's too nice. That's what Corey Delaney is, man. He's a nice guy, man. I think he needs to. I think 145 is, where he should be. He came in light on this fight and didn't look worse for the wear. I think that's a weight class he should settle into. But what a gamer this guy is. I mean, he comes in and gives it everything he's got. It's just the guys switch the game up on him. He gets beat in one way, and then he goes back and he works on that thing, and then he comes into the next fight having worked on that, so nobody gets him, and then they throw something else at him, and the next guy doesn't do that. They go for something else. So it just always seems like he's just a step behind picking up or getting better at what the person in after him or next is going to try to exploit. So it's such a good guy. I hope he continues with this. He's always reliable, man. Corey Delaney is a guy that you never have to worry about being late, not showing up, pulling out of a fight, not following through obligations. Class act. Love that dude to death. And like I said, just a genuine nice guy.
And I will say, we've thrown this guy the cream of the crop, and I want to say, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure every single one of these guys he has had a big slam on. He's like, he's gotten a takedown on. Like all these guys,
on everybody. He don't care.
On everyone, right? He does like everybody. Yeah, right. All right, that's gonna do it, guys. That's our recap and reaction show for the Underground 3. If you haven't checked it out, make sure that you subscribe to the channel here and get notified when we post the videos here in a couple weeks. I guess it'll be right at the first of the year. And by that time, we'll be in full swing, getting ready for January 6th. That's next up, Aries 14 from the world famous Cotton Eye Joe, Knoxville, Tennessee. Get your tickets for that. FighterTicketsForTheNext.com. We'll be on Spectation Sports as well with it. Female and a co-main and main event for that one. I'm excited to dive in. We'll do some interviews in the lead up as our reigning and defending champion, the Mare Bear, is Mary Rosenbeck, going to be taking on Sierra Buxton from the always tough and talented and skilled Scorpion Fighting Systems up in Michigan. So with a lot to talk about in that one. Jeff, any parting words? Dylan, anything y'all want to add before we wrap up here?
Real quick, Jan 6, I am so pumped. You're talking about the Mare Bear back in action. I see we got Zane Burton in a little Muay Thai contest. Somebody who I stay in regular contact with. Never seen him fight, Kobe Ford. I'm coming, Jan 6. You better put on a show, buddy. I've heard you're hot stuff. I've heard you're the man in the cage. Stoked to see you fight, man. Ready for this January 6th card, though.
I am ready for Zawicki. Is that how?
Yeah. That's right.
I'm excited about
Zoe Nowicki.
Yeah, Zoe. Looking kind of into her background and obvious fan support from the moment tickets went on sale, all the way from Michigan. They will be in the house on January 6th in Knoxville, Tennessee. So Michigan is headed down south. I am intrigued. I cannot wait to see what she brings to the table. And, I'm just excited. It's a big card, 15, 16 fights on it. Going to give the crowd their money's worth coming into the new year. And I think it's just going to be one of those classic Joe parties is what I'm having a feeling it's fixing to be one of those nights that just ends up being a damn good time.
Man, we'll get into that and a whole lot more in the coming weeks. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Jeff, Dylan, hopefully you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. And this will be the last podcast before we break for the holidays. And to all the listeners and viewers out there, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you guys as well. We look forward to seeing you guys in 2023. For Dylan McCarthy, Jeff Hobbs, I'm Tim Loy. This has been the 0 Hour. We're signing out for 2022. Peace.
See ya.